As Arswin you may or may not have heard, just read out, Paul is using a device that may record or broadcast this call. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Now, sorry for this. Sorry for the swear words. But hello, welcome to Hash Rugby Chat. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion. And in a show where we're going to be talking about teams being named after drinks, it's no surprise that I've had a couple of gin and tonics, and I am 2 sheets to the wind. It's fantastic. And to join me is a guy who has seen one game this weekend of about 10 or 12 games that he should have watched. But how are you doing, Arswin?
Oh yeah, fantastic. That's why he got an expletive, and although he doesn't normally let us use expletives. It's the first time I've ever seen when we're doing the show with Paul that I've had this message come up that's advising me that Paul may actually record or broadcast this call. I've never had that before, so it's like, oh no, nobody told me this was happening.
Yeah, they've all been private calls until now. Yeah. How come all my friends keep telling me what I've been saying? Jeez, they're psychic.
Private calls with notes to talk about.
Now, the reason, actually, if anyone who doesn't know, I use Skype to do this call, as you probably might imagine. I mean, there's other video call software, but Skype's one I use. And yeah, apparently some NDI thingamajig goes on. It's got this new warning that goes up, which is why he is getting that. So anyway, should we actually talk about some rugby, or we're just going to talk about
security?
IT security. Wow, Snoresville. Go to sleep, everybody.
Every time we start these shows, we should always say hi to the federal authorities in the USA.
Oh yes, and by the way, anyone in the live chat, if you put comments in there, I might use them in the show. So hey, then that's not private.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, that's probably a good idea.
Oh dear. Now talking about
let's get on with it.
Talking about people who are being naughty.
Yes.
So Dylan Hartley gave a lovely interview recently talking about the Saracen salary cap, and he was basically talking about how you could rest they could rest players, etc. And I love this quote. Northampton got every minute out of me when I wasn't playing for England or suspended.
Yeah. Which, let's face it, was a frequent occurrence.
Which was yes, exactly. And he also his other point was that that players get annoyed with people who actually commit the same offence twice. He was a very clever, I forgot the word he used now, but anyway, a very clever person at breaking the law, because every time he did it, it was a different reason. Which was quite a lot. Well, he had headbutting a player. He had calling a ref a cheat. So I mean, there were a lot of different reasons he got suspended. Whereas Saracens just done the same thing over and over again, and that upsets players apparently. So there you go. So that's a couple of nice quotes from him. Also, Arswin, are you ready for the Rugby World Cup 2021?
Well, I am, but just before we move on, I'm guessing, like, while I've been away, which I've been away for a while, haven't I? And I apologise to all my fans out there. But I'm guessing you've done the Saracens thing to death, haven't you?
Well, perhaps not on these shows, but I have done for my supporters. So yes, I've done a couple of Saracen-specific videos about that. But no, go on. If there's stuff you want to talk about Saracens, go for it.
Just a quick. Yeah, I think there's been a lot been said, and it's probably been done to death, in all sorts of areas and the like.
But no, if there's anything we can do, it's to kick a dead dog.
Yes.
Yeah, we can beat a dead dog.
Absolutely. I just sort of think I suppose the thing for me is it's just like the Premiership is, or the people that run the Premiership that would obviously deal with the situation. It's just taken too long to act, haven't they, really? And making the only obvious course of action, which was that they can't win or be involved in playoff time this season, and they have to be relegated, which is just a logical step that they probably should have made a long time ago.
Yeah, when they made the first decision, they should have really made the decision, drawn a line under it, and dealt with it. Instead, they've kept on tacking on extra and extra things. And you're like, seriously, guys, when are you going to kill this story and actually move on? Because,
and to use the line that you just used, kick a dead dog. It's just like, they're the ones that keep kicking that dead dog. It's just like, it's dead. Oh, no, we'll just make sure we'll give it another nudge now with something else. Oh, but we might chuck something in the background that gives them a bit of hope.
Well, yeah.
False hope.
But and look, one of the issues that's going to be for the rest of this Gallagher Premiership is Saracens now they're getting relegated. So how much effort are they going to put into those games at the end of the day? That's a problem for them because are those games meaningful? Are they really going to fight for those points? What does it really matter? The only thing they can fight for now is the European Rugby Champions Cup and to try and win that. I guess
there's no salary cap for that.
Well, yes and no. So yes, there is because they're an English team, but only English teams have that salary cap.
Oh, right. Of course. Yes, pretty obvious. Yes, right. Yes.
So you can't hire players just for the European competition, separate and separate to the English or competition, for example. So you can't say go and hire extra players for that.
Yeah. So that means that they're actually in a good position for the European competition, you'd think, because effectively you'll throw all your sort of your bench warmers and your training paddock guys on the game in the games for the Premiership and save all your players, your over salary players, for want of a term, for your European Championship.
Exactly. Now, thankfully, they're up against Leinster in the quarterfinals away, so that's probably they're up against the top team in Europe. But as Christopher Edwards-Bailey says in the live chat, Saracens could win Europe and get relegated. If they do, they will not qualify for Europe next year. They have to be in the Premiership to be in Europe, so the champions wouldn't be in there. So a lot of people have been asking about that, about saying, what if they win? Surely they automatically get qualification. No, they don't. The league gets an extra automatic qualification, not the club. And he also talks about expansion and ring fencing. That ain't happening this season. They're not doing it for Saracens. Put bluntly, there's a lot of people that have been. A lot of people who've been.
In terms of as you say, there's no value for, I can't think of the right word, but for the team to put any effort in for a Premiership game. But we've seen that in terms of other sports, where in the most obvious ones in the southern part of, or in our world, in our part of the world, where in the other oval ball code, where the Melbourne Storm obviously massively massively, we'll say massively, overspent on their salary cap, and they basically lost all their points for the season, and we're going to end up bottom of the table, or were bottom of the table, couldn't get anywhere other than the bottom of the table, and so, I think what we saw there was players still had pride.
But in that one, they did that for the whole season, right? They knew that here, this is a decision that's been brought in halfway through the season.
Through.
So half the games, the players were going for something, and half the season they're not. Kind of thing is the thing. Is that stop changing the laws of the competition halfway through a season.
The Melbourne one was not quite at the beginning of the season, but early enough. It was like after a few games, sort of thing. Right. So yeah.
Because I thought you were going to be talking about the Blues versus the Sunwolves when the Blues spent the weeks training on the beach in Fiji. As a kind of example of a team that can't get relegated and the game really doesn't matter. Hey, boys, let's go on holiday. No, you're not on holiday yet. The season's still going, folks.
Yep, absolutely.
Talking about weird seasons, I just spotted this one about an hour ago. Apparently, Counties Manukau are having a pre-season friendly against Waikato this Saturday, using their Mitre 10 Cup squads.
Yeah, look, that's news to me. I haven't heard that until you've just mentioned it now. But it aligns itself with something that happened last year with the Auckland NPC squad that went over to Australia. And possibly not quite this early, but in saying that, it was only it was still sort of like March, I believe.
Well, Tasman are just heading back from the USA, where they played Seattle and another team. I can't remember which one it was now. Houston, thank you.
Because I nearly saw the game live.
Oh, good for you.
Nearly, but I didn't. It's like most of my trip. Nearly, but didn't. but we won't turn this into a counselling session for Ashwin.
But yeah, so I mean, it's one of these things where so it's interesting. So I've just messaged, literally emailed counties and Waikato media managers. So hopefully I'll be able to bring you interviews, either pre or post match interviews from the coaches and the players of that game this Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that.
Is
Jordan
the game
says,
being played? You know?
Sorry.
Is the game being played?
Oh, it's been played in on one of the side pitches for FMG Stadium.
Oh yeah.
John something Park, but yeah, basically
one that goes around the corner most likely.
Yeah, one of the ones that goes. Well, essentially, it's the Waikato rugby training pitch.
Yeah.
It's the one that gets saved for the Waikato for the All Blacks when they come down here training or any other teams. It's that pitch.
And obviously with us talking about this, it's raised some comments in the old chat room from Chris and Simon in terms of Bay of Plenty joining Rapid Rugby through the China Lions.
So this is a really interesting one, and I've actually got in touch with the Bay of Plenty CEO, and he has said he will give me an interview. So
awesome. That's fantastic.
Sorry I haven't managed to get organised yet, folks, but I am trying to get hold of him to organise an interview. That will be a supporters only video. So if you want to become a supporter, head over to DrivingMaul.com where you can become a supporter. But I'm looking at interviewing him, have a chat with him. He's been the CEO since 2009. I think it's sort of 10 years now at Bay of Plenty. I want to talk to him about how he has brought back in the under-23 squad, how that's helped them, or the under-20 squad, how that's helped them grow up their high-performance system, and what their futures. Because obviously that's improved, as we've seen with Bay of Plenty getting promoted from the Championship to the Premiership in Mitre 10 Cup.
Yep.
But also, what is the next step of their high-performance system, and why are they looking at working with the China Lions? But it's a really exciting thing. I think they're perhaps one of the most progressive provinces in New Zealand in this space. If we're looking at actually age group rugby, I think perhaps North Harbour is the most progressive rugby province. But you're looking at different provinces are more progressive in different areas, and I think they are definitely their high performance system is at a different level. Is looking to do things more innovatively than pretty much any other.
To answer Chris's sort of like question, our thoughts on it, I'm pretty sure, I don't think it was on air that was discussed this, but we spoke about this at least last season, if not the season before, how Auckland and North Harbour should basically, and by default Northland as well, is to put players at a secondary level from the Mitre 10 Cup, put a team together and put them into Rapid Rugby. We talked about that, and so when I saw this from Bay of Plenty, I thought it's a logical step. It's a good step. It's a good way to get your players in your region staying within your region somehow. You've got to think outside the square, and in a sense they have, in terms of how can they maintain or keep players from their area.
And one of the things is, so basically what you have with Mitre 10 Cup squads and also coaches is you have a 12-week season, plus if you add in a bit of a pre-season of 2 or 3 weeks. So basically you have about a third of the year that you can employ these people for, right?
Yep.
Now you've got these people. Now most people, let's be honest, can't afford to live the 12 months off 4 months salary.
Yep.
So hence what they've got to do is they've got to find something for those guys to do outside that 4 months. Now for most of the unions, they take their head coach and make him a high performance or a rugby development officer of some kind of sort. Bay of Plenty don't do that with Clayton McMillan. When I had a chat with him pre-season about what he does, so he's got he's the head coach for the Maori All Blacks as well. So that gives him about a month's worth of work, plus 4 months worth of work through Bay of Plenty. So he essentially lives off 5 months' work and spends the other 7 months kicking his heels. I'm sure he does other stuff, but he doesn't have a full-time job for the other 7 months. What this gives him, what this means is that potentially Bay of Plenty can give him a contract to work with China Lions for the first half of the year, or for the other, I've gone blank, so 7 months of the year, or at least 6 of them, to work with that. And that's essentially why they're doing this. Is as Simon says in here, your players you can contract players for 12 months of the year if you have 12 months rugby, and that's what they'll get by using Global Rapid Rugby. I mean, what's interesting is we're talking about this game this weekend, or I mentioned this game this weekend between Counties Manukau and Waikato. And the Mitre 10 Cup season doesn't kick off until August.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Dalton Papali'i turns up for Counties Manukau.
No, it's the non-Super Rugby players.
Just on a different angle, I read Simon's comment as being just slightly differently, but most players do get 12-month contracts, but obviously at Mitre 10, not all of them do.
Only the Super Rugby players do, right?
Only Super Rugby players, effectively. You might get the odd NPC level player that will get a 12-month contract, but that's probably because he's a Colts player or something like that.
Or if you look like someone like Sweeney, who is who's a veteran within the Waikato squad. He is contracted with Waikato as a rugby development officer for 8 months of the year, and then 4 months of the year he's a Mitre 10 Cup player. So they give him a totally different job. Yep. But he still has to do that job, right? It's not like he's training as a professional athlete for those 8 months. He is doing a different job.
Well, the thing is that if the NPC sides were flush with funds, they could then just basically pretend that they've created a job. But no NPC side is flush with funds. So if they've made another job then for him and paying him for another 8 months, he has to do that job because they can't afford to just pay him for 8 months for nothing.
So I think it's really good thinking by Bay of Plenty.
Yep. I think it's brilliant. I think it works. It works for them, but if you think about it, it actually works for what will be the Chinese Lions or the China Lions as well, in terms of they're getting quality coaching, player resourcing. You'll want to have local players. You won't just want to flood the team with only Bay of Plenty players, I'm guessing.
But they're only going to want to use Bay of Plenty Mitre 10 Cup players, right? And they've lost their Super Rugby players. At most they can. So what you reckon? Most provinces have about 10 to 11 Super Rugby players. So about a third of your squad is Super Rugby. So at most, if all of the non-Super Rugby Mitre 10 Cup players wanted to go play in China, you're looking at 2/3 of the squad.
Yep.
So even if they do, even if they do all go, you're still going to find a third of that squad, and that's all going to come from China.
Yeah. The only with the Clayton McMillan scenario you're talking about, obviously he just has to wait for the coronavirus to settle down.
That is going to be a big
thing.
Home
on the Heineken virus instead.
Oh, dearie me, no.
Bury me.
Yeah, when the good George virus comes out of Hamilton. Dear me. I guess I've kind of two questions. One is again around that sort of how much local influence will there be in that squad, but the second one also is what impact does that have on the Bay of Plenty club scene, and therefore how good is the Bay of Plenty club scene for developing future Mitre 10 Cup players? But it'll be interesting to have that chat with the CEO of Bay of Plenty.
It will be. That'll be one of your really interesting questions, because one of the things we've talked again offline, and sorry for the people about that, but we obviously with our connection to Auckland, we've talked about Auckland Club Rugby and the like, and the fact is that one of the issues with so many players going offshore is the fact is that it's actually impacts down at club rugby level. So not your Super Rugby, not your Mitre 10 rugby, but down at club level where basically you don't have any experience coming back into club rugby, and so you got the young kids coming through, and you basically the club rugby teams in Auckland. I won't say for the country because I know the country aspects it changes, but in Auckland, club rugby's basically become what Colts rugby used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago. The player age is 23, sort of thing. You're not getting your 30, 35-year-old players playing club rugby in Auckland because they're either overseas playing it or they're at home or they're at the shopping mall with the family.
Now, I'll be honest, and my knowledge is much more around the Waikato and the Thames Valley club scene, where I've been to quite a few club games recently. But you're looking at someone like Tyra, who are Thames Valley it's semi-professional at the Mitre 10 Cup level in the Heartland Championship. Never mind at the club level, which is basically amateur. Now, even they had to get 12 foreigners in. Now, all those foreigners, they were fruit picking and had other jobs. They didn't get paid to play rugby, but the rugby club helped them to find jobs in that area. And they needed 12 players just to field a first team. In Waikato, which has got a much higher level of rugby at club level, went down to Otahonga. They had about 3 or 4 players from overseas, one of whom was an ex-Ospreys player who then got a contract with Leicester Tigers. I went and saw Otahonga. Now, one of the players there, I've gone blank. I'm really sorry, but a Scottish guy didn't get had an academy contract with Edinburgh. Didn't get renewed, so came over to New Zealand to played there at Otahonga, and then picked up a Mitre 10 Cup contract with Waikato. They had an AFL player who picked up a Mitre 10 contract with Auckland. So
Kurt Heatherley was that one.
Sorry,
Kurt Heatherley.
Thank you.
Was one that ended up at Auckland.
As a fullback, right?
Yep.
So these kind of players. So there is a route through the club scene to Mitre 10 Cup. It's not purely through first 15. Which, if you listen to some commentators, they'll say, "Oh yeah, clubs just totally skipped." And for a lot of players, it is. Don't get me wrong, but there is a small gap for those club players to come through. But it is 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 places in the squad each season, rather than, okay, folks, we have half the squad figured out, and the other half is representative from our club scene. It's not that anymore. It's very much the majority of the squad is organised, and you've got 2 or 3 spaces available for club players, plus injury replacements, effectively. So, one of the reasons that it's on the edge of my tongue, the Scottish player that he got in, Hamilton Burr, thank you. And I've got interviews with both those guys on the channel, on the YouTube channel. So I do search their names. The reason he got a contract is probably because Luke Jacobson got an All Blacks contract.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't, Hamilton Burr doesn't get a contract. It's purely because he's replaced. So those club spaces are only for unexpected All Blacks call-ups or injuries, effectively.
We should go back on track. I took you off on a massive tangent, didn't I?
20 minutes on the first item. That's fantastic. We could be here all night. So Rugby World Cup 2021. Are you looking forward to that?
Well, all rugby I look forward to, and we're talking about the Women's World Cup here in New Zealand, aren't we?
Exactly. So there you go. That was part of what I was trying to get at.
They've dropped the women's.
They've dropped the women's thing to be kind of gender neutral, and as the Scottish canon said on Twitter, look, dropping the gender look. I'm all for equality. Don't get me wrong, and I cover a lot of women.
He is. People. I've had conversations with him. He is.
But the point here is, it should be called Women's Rugby World Cup, and rather than dropping women, you should add men to the Men's Rugby World Cup, so that you get the equality. By just calling them both the Rugby World Cup makes for the casual viewer, they get totally confused.
Yes.
Now, for me, I know that the Rugby World Cup 2021 is Women's Rugby World Cup in New Zealand, or a Rugby World Cup for women's teams in New Zealand. So to me, I think the dropping of the name is the wrong way to go about it.
I had a catch up with a friend today, and I was just talking about this actually with a friend as well. And I find this a little bit disingenuous, isn't the right word, but they're trying to be deceptive because they're trying to roll off the back of men's game to get interest into the women's game by dropping that. It's not about being gender neutral. Let's not try to cover it up. It's the fact is that they want interest in the women's game, and it's like if people think, oh, we're going to be watching the men's game, and then we're watching the women's game. Oh, it's okay. Or we enjoy it. That's what they're trying to achieve. And the classic example you can give is the local media over here is a organisation called Stuff, and they consistently put headlines in like this: McCall looks to make amends from 4 years ago, and you go, what What? What's Richie doing? What's Richie doing? You click on it. It's the lady he married called Gemma. Right? But they obviously put just McCaw, and because New Zealand, 99% of New Zealand, when you hear the name McCaw, you think of Richie, not Gemma.
Really? Why would you think that?
I don't know. And so this is what they're doing here as well, and this is like, as you say, it's rather than drop the women's, add the men's.
No, exactly. So for those of you that don't know, the Women's Rugby World Cup is here in New Zealand next year, which I'm really looking forward to. The pool matches 18th September, 23rd, so basically September, October next year. Pool matches and quarterfinals will be in Northland and Waitakere Stadium, or Henderson.
Waitakere Trust Stadium.
Well, they just call it Waitakere Stadium and the Northland Event Centre. Now, it's not called that, and it's not called Toll Stadium anymore because Toll have stopped the sponsorship. It's a name I can't talk about. But anyway, a name I can't pronounce. But another trucking company has got that one. But anyway, basically the games will be in Northland and in Auckland.
Simonovic. No. Yeah, it starts with this.
Begins with S. Yes, it does. And then the semi-finals and the bronze match and the final will be in Eden Park on the 9th of October and the 16th of October. So, looking forward to that. I'm hoping that I can wheedle my way in as with some sort of media pass. But I mean, Toll Stadium or the Northern one, fantastic. But Waitakere Stadium, I've been there for the Oceania Sevens, and I've been there for an All Blacks training session prior to the Lions, during the Lions tour. They're not expecting big crowds, are they?
No, they're not. They're not. And the thing is that, I'd like to be wrong, but unless they get a lot of people coming from overseas, those stadiums are going to be empty.
Well, I think they can get a good crowd, but I would have gone for Albany Stadium. And
well, the problem with the Albany Stadium is that they've reconfigured it for baseball.
Yeah, and that's where they've gone wrong. They should have reconfigured Waikato Stadium for baseball, where they could have totally rebuilt it. And
mind you, anyway. Exactly. They could have totally, It's the placement of where they could have done a baseball stadium, I think, is the questionable one. When you've got basically a 35,000 seat stadium there, that was what it's configured. They've taken the stands out from the opposite side from the main stand.
Well, half of it out.
Yeah. Well, quite a few. It's quite a big chunk that they've taken out. So at the end of the day, they'll put the cameras on that side of the field. Oh no, actually, they won't be playing there. So but Waitakere does it for the stadium. The stands, the problem.
Will still be playing the Ice Cup games there. So it's going to be interesting next season when I go back from North Harbour games. I saw it during construction. I didn't see it finished because of those games. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But anyway, hopefully I can get some media pass to that and bring you some coverage. Like I do for the Farah Palmer Cup. Looking that it's great that they'll be held here over those 5 or 6 rounds.
But just to clarify this, the Rugby World Cup of 2021, because that's what the IRB's calling it.
Yep.
Will be a Auckland North event.
Auckland North, Auckland Whangarei event, yes.
Yeah. So Auckland and north of Auckland sort of thing is what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's where it's going to be held. Now it's a bit of a drive between the two, to be fair. It'll be interesting.
You're talking to a guy who's just come back from America. 3 hours is nothing.
Now, and to be fair, look, from Hamilton, I was covering Northland Mitre Cup games, but let's be honest, I'm the exception, not the rule. I got lifts up there with our friend Stephen Harris. And Stephen's mentioned that basically he can work out at the Waitakere Stadium and watch the games because apparently his gym overlooks that. And I said, look, mate, saying on Twitter that you can work out and watch women's rugby, a bit dodgy. But anyway, behave yourself there, sir.
It's on the treadmill. I did some classes there, and it's just like you can actually just do your hour and a half on the treadmill while you're watching the game.
So there you go. So yes, maybe that's what I'll do in case if I can't I'm not sure I can last an hour and a half on the treadmill, to be honest.
You walk on it for an hour and a half instead of running on it.
Well, that's true. That's true. So that was good news to see. Now, talking about Rugby World Cups? Rugby World Cup 2023. Did you know that we're already heading towards that? There are key things happening. That last weekend's games count.
Yes, absolutely. Every game counts because it's probably in a couple of weeks they'll do the draw.
Well, exactly.
based on the rankings of today.
The draw is happening, or no, the rankings at the end of November affect what the draw is.
So the draw will be effectively what you're saying is the draw will be at the end of this year.
Basically, yes. But the rankings at the end of November are the ones that count. And it doesn't really matter if you're third or fourth. It does matter if you're fourth or fifth, or if you're eighth or ninth. Okay, so those are the key things. Is it it's in blocks of fours. So seeding. So currently, the top seeds are South Africa, New Zealand, England, and Wales. They're all the number 1 seeds. The number 2 seeds would be Ireland, France, Australia, Japan in 8th place, which is massive. And then you've got your Scotland's, Argentina's, Italy's, etc. in that third. And who's the other team that made it, that qualified? I've gone blank. Was it Fiji?
I can't remember. Sorry, no, I'm blank on that one too.
So I think it's Scotland, Argentina, Fiji, and Italy. Yeah, okay, are that third band. So yes, so teams like Japan and Scotland, their games between now and the end of November are massive.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say, I reckon you can actually almost France could be the wild card after last weekend's performance. Sorry, Paul. But they could be. But you could that top 4. You could almost lock in because Ireland didn't look like, since the World Cup. They let's face it, they bombed in the World Cup. They didn't perform in the World Cup like they should have. And then they got run really close by Scotland on the weekend. So you're sort of saying that top 4 is probably looking about what that top 4 is going to be.
Yeah. It's, Australia, the biggest. So I've to give you the biggest movers. So Portugal are the biggest movers. They've climbed from 24th to 22nd. So it's 2 places up. Quite how, I've got no idea. I've not been following that Tier 2 games. And Australia, so no one's lost more than 1 place. So Australia, the biggest losers from 6th to 7th with France's win. France have got a really, really, really exciting team. Okay, for the past couple of years, they've won the Under-20s championship. And one of the things you've seen progressively into England's sort of last 4 years of being a really good team is that they won the Under-20s championships twice in 3 years. France have done that twice in 2 years. And you're looking at those teams really. France have got a really exciting young crop. I've not been this excited about French teams for a decade. For a decade, they have been useless. Okay. They've just been poor.
And it's interesting, what you could summarise the whole French over the last decade or even longer. And what's happened is that the top 2 inches issue has moved off the field into management.
No, that's the thing. They've not even had the players either, or the players have just been worn out by the top 14.
Well, and the fact is that some of the decision making in terms of allowing, I don't think they have changed it, but the numbers of foreigners that could play in their club teams and the like, and that impact them. They have changed that.
They have changed that. So thank you, Simon. Portugal apparently beat Belgium during the last week. So congratulations, Portugal. They have changed that. So now you've got to have so many players from your academy, which is why you'll have heard, and that happened about 3 or 4 years ago. And that's why you've heard of all these French clubs going and raiding Fiji for academy players. Because if the player comes through your academy, they're considered homegrown. And you've got to have so many homegrown players. Now this is to get around various European laws around freedom of movement and equal opportunities, etc., where you can't discriminate on where you come from. So hence they discriminate on whether you've been in the academy or not. Is how they do it. Which is perhaps a tad harsh, to be fair. But yeah, basically
harsh but fair. Harsh but fair.
But no, come on. England discriminate on nationality, i.e., you can only be picked for England if you play in England, and the clubs get a amount of money from RFU for the number of English qualified players that they play. New Zealand, again, they discriminate on New Zealand qualification. If you're not New Zealand qualified, you're only allowed to have, I think it's 2 or 3 people in the Super Rugby squad who are not New Zealand qualified. So, look, this isn't a stab at the French. It's just a fact of how rugby works. But they did bring it in, I say, about 3 or 4 years ago, and we're seeing the impact of that now with the young crowd that's coming through. They've got their oldest player in their match day 23 was 26.
Oh, okay.
This is a very young squad.
It's
they're
very
going
young
to have
squad.
some wonderful days like they did on the weekend, and they're going to have some shockers.
2027 is looking good for them.
I mean, 2023 is looking good for them, to be honest, but they're going to have some shockers.
I think what you'll find, your 2023 will come and it'll be an experience thing, and then they'll get the experience, and 27 will be the real shot.
Yeah, maybe so.
But just on Australia, I'm not surprised that they've gone down, and that is a shocking weekend.
Australia, awful.
How they scored 0, I don't know.
Hey, the Sunwolves top the conference. I mean, geez, come on. Folks, look, we know that Super Rugby results do not impact world rankings. Don't worry. So please don't jump on Twitter and at us on this one. So yes, there we go. Second item through. Mickey Mouse moments of the weekend. Now you've not seen any of these, so this is great. I can just talk about these. But the 6-man caterpillar by Exeter Chiefs. I'm an Exeter Chiefs fan, but this is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Did you have a look at the picture?
What you mean? So they'll set up a rolling maul?
No, they set up a ruck.
Yep.
So at the ruck, you've got the player on the floor. You've got the first player over it, and then you've got 4 players behind him, one behind the other, making a long ruck with no opposition players involved in the ruck at all.
Okay, so do you know what the defensive side has to do to negate the caterpillar?
Well, drive through it for a start.
No. The defensive team has to get every single player out of the ruck.
Well, they did. They had all the players out of the ruck.
But then the offside line is the ball.
Not until... No. It's not. The offside line is still the front foot player under the new rules.
Under the new rules? Okay, because I just went to... As part of my coaching... I went to referees training last year, and that's when they said if there's that's what they said, if there's no a tackler in the ruck or defensive player in the ruck, then the offside line is the ball. That's where I came with that. So if you're saying that the rule has been changed,
well, the rule
makes it
changed at the beginning of last year that to have a ruck, you only had to have one player over the ball.
Yes,
and that the offside line was then the
ball.
Oh, the ball, is it? Okay, because I think everyone's playing the offside line as being the front player.
Front, yeah, that's right. But if it is, well, again, according to our referee masters that took us on that training session, if there is no engagement from the defensive side effect.
Well, there will have been engagement in the tackle.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're pulled out. Yeah. So now there's you don't have your man's last feet as an offside line. The ball is the offside line. So that's why, if that is the case, still the case, then effectively a caterpillar is null and void because you can just walk forward until where the ball is, as long as one of your players isn't touching. And that's another key thing. He can't be standing there with a hand on the shoulder, right? Because now he's part of the ruck. So he's got to make sure that hands are all off.
Okay.
So hands, no touchy.
Yeah.
And then he can walk forward with the ball.
There's no opposition players even in the photo.
Say that again, sorry? I missed that.
There's no opposition players even in the picture. I mean,
right.
We have this line of players, and it's ludicrous. It's something that needs to be stopped. It needs to go. Other ones, Ben Young's just throwing the ball into touch during play. That was a Mickey Mouse moment, and unfortunately something I've seen him do too many times now. Eddie Jones pre-match comments talking about how England will be the greatest team in the world ever, and how they will totally physically dominate the French.
Well, yeah, that's probably a good one because as we know now, in this world that we live on, everybody lives in their own little bubble, and obviously Eddie lives in his little bubble as well, where England is the greatest team in the world, and he's Danny the champion.
So I want to go back to the caterpillar. Fiji Water gives us a great comment. He wants to see a 14-man ruck. so Ben Fullervella can get a kick safely away.
Sorry, I started laughing before
Brilliant.
Paul finished, actually.
Brilliant. Love that, Fiji Water. Thank you very much for that. Look, Ben Young said those things because if I was a member of the media talking with Eddie Jones, if I was a member of the media talking with Eddie Jones this week, my only topic of conversation would be with him, Eddie, how are the Saracens players getting on with the rest of the squad? Is there a division in your squad? That would be my entire topic of conversation, and all my articles will be about division within the England squad. Now, what he's done is he's gone and made an absolutely ludicrous statement to basically take all the media away from that topic of conversation to another one that is absolutely stupid, in all honesty, England being the greatest team ever. Look, they're not. They're a good side, right? But they're far from that. And everyone then has gone, oh, Eddie Jones is such an arrogant person. You know what? It's taken all the media attention away from what he does not want to talk about, which clearly is happening.
And the performance on the field.
Well, this was pre-game.
Oh, sorry, yeah, right. Sorry, my bad.
Post-game, there's the performance. A lot of people like saying, oh, he'll be so upset about the fact that he made those comments and they weren't true. No, he'll be upset by the performance. The comments did exactly what he wanted to do. He put pressure on his team to see whether his team could perform under pressure, which they couldn't. Yep. And it took the conversation away from what he didn't want to talk about. That's good media management.
Yep, and we saw that. We've seen that before by him as well. Yep. With the comments that he makes, and it's, as you say, it's interesting. You sort of like, it's to deflect from something he doesn't want to talk about, and he does that all the time.
Yep. But everyone takes it at face value and goes, "Oh, he's such an arrogant prat." He might be, but that's not why he's saying them. I mean, the two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. He could be an arrogant prat too. I've never talked to him, I don't know. Talking about mutually exclusive, someone put on Twitter that's like, I don't like Perifetta. Now look, Perifetta could be a nice guy. Sure, he can't hit the side of a barn when kicking, but that doesn't mean you don't have to dislike him. He might not be very good. Yep. He might be able to kick to save his life, but he could be a nice guy. So just the two things aren't mutually exclusive.
It's interesting, and I'll use this, and I think people out there that'll be listening or watching would have actually possibly seen this anyway. A classic one of what you're saying there is, the Ellen fans that went absolutely ape at her and stopped following Ellen DeGeneres, stopped following her on Twitter and stuff like that, and abused her because what was she doing talking to George W. Bush?
Yes.
And it's just like, well, actually, outside of politics, the only thing they disagree about is politics. Outside of politics, they have a laugh and they enjoy each other's company. And they were at a game where they supported the same team, so they have that in common as well. So you can have things that you don't like about somebody, but to say you don't like anything about them is pretty hard.
Yeah, it is pretty harsh. So Perifetta, yes, can't kick to save his life. We've seen that again this weekend. But I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I've never interviewed, never chatted to him. But he could be a really nice guy. And he comes across as being a really nice guy. He doesn't come across as being an idiot. So yeah, don't say you dislike him.
In terms of that Perifetta, because we went there, I'll and you would have possibly seen my tweet or Facebook post on that one. And the fact is that what I don't understand is that now he's been part of the Blue squad for 3 years. Okay, most of that's been injured. Granted. Okay, so you could probably say 10 years. Most of it's been injured. But I don't understand is we know he can't hit the wide side of a barn when he's kicking, not just the narrow side, the wide side of a barn. So as a professional player, and we talked about this with the 12-year contracts of that, we know that Stephen Perifetta is on over $100,000 because sort of the most of the Super Rugby players, if not all of them on the full-time contracts, are over $100,000. Okay, yep. So and then we know that they practice. Most of them practice twice a day, I believe, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. There is time for him to do on his own to go to a rugby field in New Zealand because we've got a few, we've got a few goalposts around to just practice kicking, get his technique. In the city, we have one of the greatest rugby ball kickers that we've ever had in Grant Fox. Okay, I'm not saying he was the best first five. I'm just saying he was one of the best kickers that we've ever had. Right, metronomic as they used to call him, and it's just like you've got the at your use, there, utilize, and yet reach out. No, just carry on being an average kicker, costing your team games.
And
I don't get it.
Yeah, and we'll see. Maybe Terry Black has become a fantastic goal kicker over the off season. I doubt it somehow.
Yep.
And we've got Jordan Traynor as well. So yeah, I think he made his kicks for the weekend. But anyway, even so. So yes, Simon Hughes. One of the topics I was going to talk about: criticism of Beauden Barrett. He's on holiday, and he happens to go to the biggest sporting event of the year, and everyone goes, "Oh, you shouldn't be watching the Super Bowl and having photos with a beer in your hand when your team are losing."
Okay.
Folks, okay, go on. After you go first.
Well, being a Blues fan, obviously, and he signed with the Blues, so it's just like, and as some people that watch your show and listen to your show will be aware, I've got involved in politics over the last year or so or more. So there's a lot of people that are pretty stupid.
Because
it's just frustrating. This is my frustration coming out, but the stupidity globally is mind-boggling. So I'm not surprised that people don't understand that Beauden Barrett is on holiday. He's got, let's call it, from what us normal corporate plebs would understand, annual leave. And when you're on annual leave, you do what you want to do on your annual leave. So that's what he's got. So he goes with his mate Izzy off to the Super Bowl to watch the Kansas City Chiefs. They probably had two shirts there, and they put one on at the end, which was the Kansas City one.
I saw him in the Kansas City jersey. Now, my only problem with that is, look, they're called the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the Hamilton Chiefs. I mean, Waikato Chiefs. And what's he doing wearing a Chiefs jersey?
I'll come to that in a second.
Now, I'll come to that in a second. Issues with. Okay, Chiefs.
I'll wrap that up. It's just like, as a Blues fan and a hardcore Blues fan, it's just like, there is no issue with Beauden Barrett going to watch the Super Bowl on annual leave.
No, I totally agree.
So there's that.
No one got upset with Richie when he was on sabbatical and went gliding. No one got upset with Dan Carter when he was on sabbatical and set up Brick Lane Brewery and started brewing beer and stuff. Look, guys, he's on sabbatical. He can do what he wants. The fact that he's pictured at the Super Bowl does not impact how the Blues play. And yeah, get used to it, folks. Richie played more games for the All Blacks than he did the Crusaders. Beauden Barrett will play a lot more games for the All Blacks while he's at the Blues than he will the Blues. Okay, he ain't going to be playing much for them at all. So,
just on the Chiefs' name, interesting thing there is that. So yesterday I was at with my son at cricket practice, and the coach that's coaching the team that he's just filling in for, he goes to me, oh, the Chiefs won, and I says, yeah, dodgy decisions all over the field, and the TMO played a big part, and then he said something, and I clicked. I was like, oh, he's talking about the Super Bowl game that's on now, not the Chiefs game, Blues Chiefs game from Friday.
Talking about targeting players, though, also in the Six Nations, Furbank, okay, he didn't have a very good game for England. I agree, but why you are trying to target him for why England lost? Well, if the fullback spills a couple of balls, that's not why you lose a game against France, okay, folks? So Furbank didn't have a great game on debut, but hey, give the kid a break. It's not his fault that England lost. All right, targeting players like that when England's performance was very much a team performance that did not work. Targeting individual players is BS.
Look, I mean, like if he's a goal kicker and he has a shocker, and I'm not talking Perifera shocker, he missed 3 kicks or something like that, which were crucial in the end. But I'm not talking about. I'm thinking if they miss 5-6 kicks in the game, then you can say, oh, look, the goal kicker really did lose us the game. But generally speaking, you can't target one player or say one player's lost you the game.
Yeah. Now,
Hey, you didn't let me do my Mickey Mouse moment of the week.
Oh, sorry, go on.
It was just like TMOs. TMOs are Mickey Mouse. TMOs are not only Mickey Mouse, they're Goofy as well. And they're Donald Duck.
Okay, go on. Why?
Why? Why? It's just like that Chiefs try after half time when I think it's Dalton Papali'i is definitely interfered with by a Chiefs player in front of the ball, and and then they sort of say he would have had the opportunity to make the tackle, and the TMO goes, no, it's okay, he wouldn't have stopped him. It's like, no, he would have had the opportunity to stop him if the Chiefs player in front hadn't have laid a hand on him and change the balance of the player. And it's just like, what are these TMOs paid for? Then later on in the game, and you've got, we'll talk about this a bit further as well, the consistency of it. Forward pass.
Oh, yes.
If it walks like a duck, if it flies like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And when the player passes a ball in front of a line and the player catches it on the line, there's a good chance that it's a forward pass. Well, it's not even a good chance. It is forward. That's just like this. And I read on the weekend, I think the easiest way, and there's agreement on this wasn't Blues players, this was obviously out of other games as well, is it? Simplify it. Just get rid of this bollocks rule that says backwards out of the hand. It's either forward or it's not. Forget the backwards out of the hand.
I totally agree. So we had the Rebels versus Sunwolves where there was a pass that about 5 meters or 4 meters before halfway, he passes the ball. The player catches it just before halfway, like, that's clearly gone forward. And they're like, oh no, it went backwards out the hand. Oh, for beep's sake. Then you had, so that was Rebels versus Sunwolves for a try. You then had Waratahs versus the Crusaders, where he gets his hands up and he rolls his left hand over the top of the ball. So the commentator's like, oh well, look, his left hand went backwards. It did, but his right hand went forwards underneath the ball. So which hand do you take as being the one that matters? And that got called as being a forward pass. I agree. A forward pass is a pass where the guy catches the ball in front of where the guy who threw it. Now, this momentum crap, you know what? Throw the ball further backwards.
Backwards.
Yeah, just throw it further backwards, folks. Stop trying lateral passes all the time. Throw it backwards, and it will go backwards. And it's that simple. Yeah. And if you like,
go to third form maths and learn about vectors.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, that tweet or message you put out, that has confused me even more. But basically the idea is, if you throw the ball and it goes forwards, even with momentum and all that kind of rubbish, it's gone forwards. You just have to throw it further backwards, folks. Simple.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, we're 53 minutes in, and we've not even gone on to the biggest topic of the week. So, there has been some fantastic news out of Major League Rugby. There is a new team that used to be called Austin Elite. Now, that team lost all of their games. Jordan's come up with a quick thing in the live chat here. We'll just wrap back and Mickey Mouse moment. DuPont had a Mickey Mouse moment kicking it out on the 78th minute. Now,
yes. Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't see it.
Yes and no. Okay, so yes, he kicks it out in the 79th minute, so before time was up. But they had a 2-score lead. So by him kicking it out and then having to set a scrum, there was absolutely no way there was enough time to score twice. Okay. So in some ways, I think, to be honest with you, I think he basically lost track of the clock and just was like, yay, we won. But the other way of looking at it is, look, he took a decision that would basically eat up the rest of the time and make sure they couldn't score twice. So maybe it was Mickey Mouse, maybe it wasn't. But anyway, now Simon reckons this is a Mickey Mouse moment. I think it's a fantastic moment. But Austin Elite lost all their games last year, so they renamed themselves Austin Herd in the off-season. And then 2 weeks before the season starts, they renamed themselves the Gilgronis, or Austin Gilgronis. So what do you think of that name, Astrid?
Yeah. I mean, apart from I know that it's a drink. I mean nothing.
So, as the New England Free Jacks tweeted out, yay! Somebody's come up with a name that basically that they have to Google more than the Free Jacks to figure out what the hell it is. So, Gilgronis is apparently a Texan-sized drink that hasn't been released yet. So I think this is marketing genius.
Yeah.
If you have a new drink you're going to bring out, and you buy yourself a rugby team and just rename it after your drink, brilliant. This is a team I can get behind. Absolutely.
And that's why I was sort of looking through, and I saw you got the new, some suggestions for the other teams on the New Orleans Jackeries.
Slow down on that one first, but we'll come back to that. But now, okay, so look, it's a marketing gimmick, okay, at the end of the day, which is a bit of fun, which can be very, can be, if it's money in and then they just walk away after 2 weeks because they got the publicity they want, then it's an absolute disaster, in all honesty. But to be fair, these guys are putting there's some good actual news behind this one. One, they're going to pay every youth player's annual fees in Austin to play rugby, which is fantastic. They're capping ticket sales at $5 per person for families. Brilliant. They're going to sponsor the under 16s, under 18s, and under 20 teams to travel nationally to play the national championships. There's no fundraising by those parents to have to get those guys to play. They're going to provide all uniforms, boots, and training kits at youth at wholesale price. No jersey will cost more than $25. Look, this team, yeah, it's gimmick, right? But behind that gimmick, there's some real substance around working with youth rugby, which I think is fantastic.
But also, Paul, it's actually getting the best out of your branding, in terms of so what they're enabling. But so, for example, selling your jerseys at cost price. That means you sell more. That means your name gets out there. That means your brand.
No. This is jerseys for youth players and for in their youth clubs. So it's not even it's not their own jerseys. It's the youth club's jersey. They'll provide. So for example, if you're talking about, so in your case, you're talking about Suburbs Rugby Club. They will provide Suburbs Rugby Club with jerseys at cost. So it's not got their name on, but they've got kids playing.
Oh, won't have a name on it?
Not as well.
As well.
It's up to. We'll see. But it's basically it's just providing kits for kids to play in their teams. These are all community initiatives. They're not about. It's about growing the youth rugby in Austin, which means they're taking a long-term view in this investment. This isn't a 2-month media publicity thing, which it could have been, and it would have been fun, but it would have been bad for the team. Now, I do have some thoughts around how this cocktail will taste. So, as they say, they're looking forward to. Fans can look forward to high adrenaline matches and pre-game festivities, including a human fireball, fire spinner, fire breathers, barbecue championships, cheerleaders championships, and much, much more. There's lots of fire in there. If this cocktail does not include chilies, I'm out. I'm not interested. This has got to be fire. This has got to be blowing your mouth off. Boom!
You missed the best line.
Oh, sorry, go on.
And the All Blacks make do with a haka.
But that's cultural.
But it's still funny. I'm an All Blacks fan. It's funny.
Oh dear. So this I'm all for this. I know Simon had this down as a Mickey Mouse moment. I think it's a fantastic moment. This is a team I can get behind because their name is fun. It's unique, so you know who you're talking about. It's not like when you talk about Warriors, where there are about 5 different teams, or Blues, where there are 2 or 3 different teams. There is just one
Chiefs.
team. or Chiefs, exactly, yeah, Chiefs as well. These names are just too.
No, I was going to say because obviously we had Kansas City.
Gilgronis, or Exeter Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs, Waikato Chiefs. Yeah, there's too many of them. Gilgronis, that's a unique name. I know who the hell you're talking about. It's brilliant. So you're right. I decided that that we should rename the entire Major League Rugby, all the teams, with new names that are drink related. And this actually got a like from the Gilgronis team Twitter account, which was fantastic.
That was good. You should ask them if they want to sponsor us.
So, hey, I want them to fly me out there so I can taste their cocktail. We have the Colorado Raptors. I think they should rename themselves as Colorado Campari. Houston Sabercats should become the Houston Highballs. Seattle Seawolves should become the Seattle Slings. Now, to be fair, there were the Singapore Slingers, which was a basketball team, obviously around the Singapore Sling cocktail, but hey, there we go. Apparently Utopia is a cocktail. I struggle with Utah, so I went Utah Utopia. New England Samuel Adams. I think Samuel Adams is kind of one of those. It's a very quintessentially American beer, isn't it? So we have Old Glory DC. So I thought we should replace that with Old Ale DC. I went Negronis New York, but apparently I should have gone for New York Manhattans. I think that would have been
Yeah, New York Manhattans. Yeah.
That'd be good. Atlanta Moonshine, Deep South, all that kind of stuff, and Toronto Toppers. So, any other suggestions for?
Yeah. Well, so I was going to say, like, so obviously I've just returned from America, which I keep alluding to, and where I was for a large part of it was Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously New Orleans, and I went to a place that's just started in 2013, and it's Bayou Rum. So Bayou.
Yep.
Bayou Rum, and I've just started. So a bit of background around that, not rugby related, but so Louisiana creates the most sugar, in the United States. They create the sugar for the United States, so they have a lot of molasses. So
that's why everyone's fat in the United States. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, so 1800s, late 1700s, molasses has been coming out of Louisiana, but they've never made rum. They've sent the molasses out to everywhere else for rum to be made. So these three guys got together in 2013 and created this company called Bayou Rum. So I went there. It is good rum. It is good rum. We bought a coffee liqueur rum back. Yum. We bought Satsuma.
Hang on. Whoa. I was over at your place the other night and you didn't get it out. Oh.
Sorry, my bad. We'll get that out. But so in terms of like the Gilgronis, there's an opportunity for Bayou Rum to actually do a sponsorship of New Orleans because they're actually from there as well.
There you go. So I went New Orleans daiquiris because daiquiris is kind of from New Orleans. But there you go. New Orleans Bayou Rum would be good. And Simon, you're right. Atlanta Moonshine is a lot better than Rugby ATL, but apparently people in Atlanta all refer to themselves as ATL. Okay, it's just an Atlanta thing.
Okay.
Oh,
but just so for our listeners that haven't been to New Orleans or to Louisiana, they have drive-through daiquiri.
Now, to be fair, look, they are responsible for their drive-through cocktail places by making sure that the top is sealed, but they give you a straw to burst that so you can drink it through the straw. But hey, they have to serve it sealed just in case you so you don't drink.
You're not allowed to drink it while you're driving. That's sealed.
Oh, dearie me. Well, there you go.
Around the world.
You've managed to get through over an hour long rugby podcast show, having only watched one rugby game and actually not talked about rugby on the whole.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, I think I like it when the flavour of Hash Rugby Chat is more around the happenings around rugby than the rugby games themselves. Because let's face it, some of the happenings around rugby are a lot more entertaining than the games themselves.
They are. And Stephen Harris and I talked about, gave our review of Super Rugby, Super Rugby Round 1. So if you want to watch that or listen to that, then head over to DrivingMaul.com and you can catch up on all the Super Rugby games from the weekend. Also head to DrivingMaul.com because I've done my predictions for Super Rugby, Six Nations and Major League Rugby for next weekend. So head over there for those. This show is about, as you say, the stuff around rugby that's fun to chat about. I'll be back on Thursday night with Shane to preview the Super Rugby games in round 2, where we will be talking about rugby games. This show is not about rugby games. So I hope you enjoyed it. Ashwin, thank you very much for joining me.
No worries.
It's been an absolute pleasure. As I say, support the channel by heading over to DrivingMaul.com and all of that kind of stuff. Thank you everyone who's been in the live chat for reminding us about topics we've forgotten about and for joining in. And we're back here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So thank you. Did you know that John Goodman is a fan of the New Orleans Gold? Yes, I did. Yeah, he's a Nola Gold fan. And John Goodman actually does turn up for games. So yes, there are some celebrity fans of the of Major League Rugby, not quite maybe at the level of the NBA or the NFL, where Bowden Barrett turns up, but hey, nearly there with John Goodman. So thank you, everybody. I'll be back. Say, Hash Rugby Chat will be back next Tuesday. I'll be back on Thursday night, 8 p.m. with the Super Rugby preview. And I think my Fiores only might be talking about Eddie Jones this weekend, because there have been talks about, or this week, sorry, because we've been talking about him getting sacked for losing 2 games on the trot, which to me seems a tad harsh, but hey, what do I know?